Welcome to round 9 of All-Stars, everyone. The field of 30 has finally been thinned down to our 10 alumni, and in 15 or so minutes, we're going to drop that down to 8. Now that each round functions in isolation, and with a final 10 as skilled as this, anyone can be eliminated at any time. But let's start with some statistics. Out of our final 10, 5 of them made their first alumni in my TWOW this season, which is very impressive and a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. The other 5 players have been at least this deep into a season before. Actually, all 10 All-Stars are evenly split between 5 players who've made a Final 5 and 5 players who haven't yet made a Final 10. So by that measure, we have a nice even split of returning powerhouses and newer challengers. Team Flares were also introduced this round. At the time of me writing this script, 96LB has the most team members with 6, while ACN has the fewest with 1. So that's pretty interesting. Standardized ranks are a bit whack this season because I keep changing the twists, but based on those, ZX and Trojan are our frontrunners, while ACN and Cherito are our cliffhangers. Although really, because every twist changes the playing field, I wouldn't call these 100% accurate. I only received one eulogy between this round and last, from Navy, so I'll read it here. Navy said, "It seems my run has come to an end. Huge props to Epsilon for making such an amazing TWOW. Every round was extremely fun, and it's very well made and amazing and cool and stuff. Good luck to everyone left." Thank you for the kind words, Navy. I'm glad you had a competitive run. The other 19 of you eliminated contestants missed your chance for a eulogy, sorry. As for confessionals though, I do have a handful of those. Let's get to them. ACN said, "Shout out to TR and Not a Donut for also utilizing the healing build to the potential it deserved to be unleashed upon everyone else. Also Cherito, who lives in my head rent-free upon every mention of an acronym that starts with T and ends with WOW." Cherito said, "I think I'm made of glass." Nice reference to the best round of TWOW ever. Gizmote said, "So glad I made it to the top 10, not factorial. Epsilon TWOW has been one of my favorite TWOWs, and I'm so happy I get to see what's still in store. In the meantime, please enjoy this music made by me." Epsilon, that means you need to put Gizmote music over this part. Sure, the song you're currently listening to is Burger Boogie by Gizmote. Dell said, "Lee, I am so sorry, I will avenge you," gets last place. Not a Donut said, "Based on last round, I think Epsilon will talk louder if I do my confessional in all caps. That's cool, I think. Time to screw around with this information." TR said, "Hashtag healing build forever." That's all the final 10 had to say. Let's get straight to results. Last episode, I asked the 10 remaining All-Stars to ask for an unpleasant favor, but in the form of a pickup line. In case you don't remember, there were 3 twists last round. First, everyone submitted 2 responses, of which only the higher response will count. Second, the character limit was increased to 150 for this round only. And third, Grand Prix voting was put into use. If you don't know what that is, I'd recommend rewatching the previous episode, as it's a bit too much to explain in a quick recap, but basically it's a voting system that specifically rewards responses that stand out and get high placement votes. The top 8 All-Stars will move on to round 10, while the bottom 2 All-Stars will be eliminated. For 1x1s, I'll only be revealing each player's higher scoring response, and I'll keep everyone's DRPs secret until the end of the video. That way, you can't predict where people will place off the fact that the average has to be 50%. Alright, enough talking. We're going in order of final second stage placement, so ZX is up first. ZX's top response was, "I'd display your level of beauty with this scoreboard, but the tens digit is broken, so I can't. If only there was someone who could fix it." I like this response because it essentially implies that the person ZX is flattering is incredibly self-absorbed and needs to literally see their beauty in lights. Like sure, you could just tell them with words, but no, that's not good enough. The shelf at the top here shows everyone's current status, which should be pretty easy to understand as we move through results. This graph goes down by percentile. Because of the irregular voting system, responses will still have a higher standard deviation the further to the right they are, by the way. I just didn't make a scale showing the values for it. Standard deviation is kind of meaningless this round anyway, because first place votes are weighed more heavily than low votes. But none of that stuff is as important as ZX's score. Let's see it. 72%. In a normal round that might be winning, but with the unique circumstances of this round, that could really end up being anywhere on the leaderboard. I would be surprised if ZX dies with this though. The name's H is up next. H's top response was, "Those muscles of yours are so big. Seeing them flex moving furniture from my old apartment to my new one makes me so thirsty." The first of many responses this round that I really hesitate to read out loud. I think the unnecessary extra clarification of "from my old apartment to my new one" is what works with this response for me, though I won't deny that I'm a bit uncomfortable after reading it. (52.63%). Again, normally I'd say that's guaranteed safety, but in this round that score might be a bit dangerous. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Plasmic Trojan is the first person revealed who has the potential to be declared safe instantly. His response was, "Hey, you come here a lot. This next one's on the house. I attempt to slide Windex down the bar table. It is too dusty to gain traction." This is definitely the most unique response of the round, and I really like the play-by-play in the second half. This sort of format worked perfectly for me. This response definitely stood out, but we'll have to see whether that worked for the voters or not. And it did! Trojan tied with ZX, but because ties are broken by comparing each player's lower response, I'll go ahead and spoil that Trojan is the first player to reach the final 8. Standing out was the goal after all, so it's a good thing that his response did that. 96LB is up next. His top response was, "You'd make a wonderful mother. Please have my babies. Make sure Jimmy's in bed by 8:30. I'll be back from the movie around midnight." It's responses like these that make me want to record voice lines in the basement. That being said, once you get through this whole response, it is pretty funny. It's just got a jarring beginning for sure, but hey, maybe that hook is what the voters needed. And with a score of 83.23%, 96LB is in the final 8. That puts him in the lead so far by a comfortable margin, too. Despite your qualms about flopping without items, you're excelling so far, 96. Next up to be revealed is TR. His top scoring response was, "Your YouTube videos really appeal to children. Could you use your grooming skills to look after my dog?" Well, quite a risky response here. I would like you to keep in mind that this response was submitted in March. I don't have a lot else to say here, so we can just move to the score. TR isn't safe quite yet. 61% is still a fairly promising score, but Universal DRP could still easily throw a wrench in things. In other news, ZX is in the final 8. Resident underdog Cherido is up next. His top response was, "I'm catering for a wedding tomorrow, but I'm a terrible baker. Could you come over and demonstrate how to mix together your signature vanilla icing?" Which is just subtle enough that I think I'm okay not recording in the basement for this one. Still, making a joke about vanilla icing may have been a risky idea. This is definitely the least safe for work response of the round, I'll say that. Will it pay off for Cherido? Ooh, 39% is a very dangerous score. Cherito could end up being anywhere from last to probably 7th, I would say. We'll have to wait and see what happens. On the bright side, TR has made the final 8. Gizmote is up 7th with the response, "Are you an angel? Because I'd really appreciate someone with wings going up to get that item from the shelf I can't reach." We've done a complete 180 in terms of subject matter here. There were 2 angel responses this round, and I'd say they were probably the most wholesome of the group, which makes sense. The other angel response was the name's H's DRP, actually. I find it pretty funny that the one person who submitted a response asking for wings is the one person whose book Sona already has them. That's kinda neat. Anyway, Gizmote has to beat H to be declared safe. Will he do it? Yes! With a score of 64.87%, Gizmote overlaps TR and makes the final 8. Good job, Gizmote. ACN is next to place, and we're almost to the point where players will begin to die. ACN's better response was, "Are you a fake ballot? Cause your votes should count twice. Epsilon will never notice if you supervote on 2 sections and give me your other vote." Well, I won't say that meta responses are exactly the most original thing anyone's ever thought of. However, I don't think anyone's ever written a meta response about the All-Stars item list. So in that regard, this response is actually pretty original. But did the voters like it? Well, let's find out. No, the voters did not like it. Aside from his own vote, ACN's response was only awarded points by 2 voters. I like to keep the suspense, but that probably spells the end for ACN. Who really knows, though? Crazier things have happened. Not a Donut is 9th to be revealed, and with this reveal, we finally moved into sudden death. Either Not a Donut or ACN will be instantly eliminated, depending on the performance of this response. Aren't you the most breathtaking person out here? Surely you could give some breaths back to my friend here who is in cardiac arrest and needs CPR. I'll go out on a limb here and say that I thought this response was decent, but it wasn't my favorite. It's a very solid concept though, and it got a couple of people championing it in the Super Voters channel. Things aren't looking good for ACN, but even if ACN dies, Not a Donut still has to beat Cherito to be guaranteed safe. Will that happen? Yes, of course it will. You should know that the only time I'm allowed to be negative during reveals is when I'm wrong. Not a Donut probably wins the round and obviously makes the final 8. He's actually 10% lower on the graph than he should be because I wanted to keep him in frame. Not a Donut's top response received 4 first place votes. Considering the fact that the majority of voters were contestants placing their own responses first, that number is very impressive. ACN is unfortunately eliminated. The first casualty of 3rd stage. I'll give you an elim card later, don't worry. For now, though, we've got one person left to place, Mr. Dell. His higher response was, "I can really feel the electricity between us, so maybe my car will be able to. Do you think you can jumpstart it?" This response is executed very well, but I can't deny that it was a bit of a low-hanging fruit. Jokes based on the word electricity, and especially chemistry, were the first thing I thought of when I made the prompt, though nobody ended up going for the latter. Still, the wording here could easily overcome it being obvious. Did that happen though? Will Dell move on, or will Cherito continue his unbelievable run by scraping? Let's find out. And that's it. Dell joins the three-way tie for third and secures his spot in the final 8. Unfortunately, that means that we have to say goodbye to our underdog, Cherito. Let's move to Elim cards. ACN, our first alumnus to fall, finishes in 10th place. You began the season with a fairly strong performance in first stage, securing yourself 16 points ahead of the average. You even grabbed a bronze medal there with your best response in round 2. You instantly honed in on healing in second stage, and basically everyone decided to copy you in round 6. You were the first to pull off the healing build for sure, and you effectively pivoted to a boost build at the end of second stage. I've had a lot of fun hosting with you as a competitor this season. I'll be honest, before TB. Declined his invitation, you were the last person I chose to invite to this season, mainly due to the fact that you've never made an alumni here. Since I admitted an alternate after TB.'s declination, you were really 26th, but man am I glad I didn't change my mind on that. You were a blast to have this season, and I'm sorry to see you run into 10th. Still, you made it past the halfway point, which is more than 20 other players can say. Cherito, or Charito, or Charito, or nobody really knows, I feel like. Our underdog finishes in 9th place. You began the season about as well as ACN, exiting first stage with an average 15 points. Your best performance was also in round 2, where you placed one spot above ACN. That's familiar. Your story has really never changed in this TWOW, has it? In Season 3, you survived something like 7 consecutive killing floor appearances before you actually managed to escape the floor for a round. In Season 4, you had a similar run, playing multiple rounds on very low health before finally being eliminated. It's only fitting that through a last-ditch Suicide King you'd break into the top 10. I'm glad your ridiculous perseverance has finally resulted in you making alumni. I can't overstate how exciting you made Season 3, and your unpredictable path in this season being cut 9th is tragic. Thank you for joining, Cherito. Alright, let's take a look at the full leaderboard. As you can see, DRPs across the board were not incredibly successful. The highest scoring DRP, 96LB's response about fixing wires, placed between 7th and 8th. The gap between H and Cherito was pretty sizable in terms of points, and thankfully, Cherito's ordering of his own responses in his vote ended up being irrelevant. ACN and Gizmote had DRPs that tied for last. I guess Gizmote's was too boring and ACN's was too bold. Some movement happened on the standardized ranks leaderboard. Since ZX and Trojan tied, ZX maintains frontrunner by a very slim margin. Not a Donut rose above H, and 96LB rose above Dell. ACN and Cherito were at the bottom of the SR leaderboard before this round's results, so TR and Gizmote, you two might want to watch out if that's a sign of things to come. Who really knows what will happen, though? Alright, let's wrap this up with the next prompt. This round's twist is something that I don't think I've ever seen implemented in any other TWOW. Really, this round would have made for an excellent killing floor minigame. It's a shame that I'm a few years late to the punch on that. Before I introduce the prompt, though, I have to talk about something. Ever since the NBA expanded overseas, a lot of people have been hyping up one specific player. I didn't watch her debut game last night, but I just have my doubts about the hype around her. You know what? I'm gonna come out and say it. Queen Elizabeth II will never be ballin'. The twist this round is that you'll all be creating newspaper front pages. There are 4 components to your responses this round: the title, the subtitle, the quote, and the image. Your job is to customize all of these aspects to create the most humorous and eye-catching front page that you can. The letter in the top right is for voting, by the way. You'll all receive exactly this template, but you're going to be limited on what you can alter. Here are the ground rules. First, you may not change any text formatting. This means font size, text color, spacing, alignment, bold, underlines, and italics are all banned too. Basically, the only thing you can change about the text is what it actually says. If you go too long in any text box, the formatting will break, and newspapers with broken formatting will not be printed. Second, you can't resize the text boxes in any way or move any of the black line boundaries to free up space. The only thing you're allowed to resize is the image. And speaking of the image, third, I am aware of the fact that different people have different levels of access to and experience with image editing software. So your image can only be one single image pulled directly from Google Images or whatever search engine you use. I don't want this to be driven by the images. You're displaying your writing skills first, with the image as a small supplemental piece to bring the newspaper idea together. I'll include a disclaimer with the release of voting that reiterates the fact that voters should not vote just by looking at the images. Hopefully this will dissuade people from doing that. If you submit an image that's obviously edited, I'm going to decline it. I got the Queen Elizabeth image from just searching Queen Elizabeth ballin'. With all that said, there's still an important aspect to this round that we haven't been over yet. The prompt. Or the prompts, rather. I'm gonna give you a bit of direction. This round will have 2 prompts, which will each function as separate leaderboards. The results for each person from each round will be averaged, and those averages will be used to determine final results. The All-Stars with the 6 highest averages will advance to round 11, while the All-Stars with the 2 lowest averages will be eliminated. Oh, and I will once again be accepting dummies this round for anyone who would like to submit one. I'll probably only take 1, maybe 2 per prompt though, so spectators, you need to really put some work into your newspapers. Okay, here's your prompts. Prompt number 1 is, your newspaper is distributed nationally. Last night, the Carolina Panthers and the Cleveland Browns took the field for the annual Super Bowl. However, after a series of unexpected events, neither team ended up being declared the winner. Report on what happened here. Prompt 2 is, your newspaper is distributed to a small town of, say, 5,000 people. As such, everybody knows everybody. Well, one person from your town went and did something excellent that gave them national praise. However, everyone in your town knows that this person is actually a real jerk. Report on the great thing that this person did to your town while implying that it's actually bad. So there. The first prompt gives you more freedom, but the second prompt gives you more direction. They're absolutely different tasks, and I'm excited to see how you all address them. Good luck, All-Stars.